The sun was low over the wide land, painting the sky in shades of gold and orange. The wind moved softly through the dry grass, making small waves on the ground. A cowboy named Tomar rode his horse along a quiet road. He had been traveling since early morning and felt tired in his bones. His hat was tilted low over his eyes, and dust from the road had settled on his clothes. He liked these long rides because they gave him time to think. The land seemed empty, but he loved the silence that stretched across the horizon. Tomar's horse, a brown mare with a white spot on her forehead, walked slowly along the path. She seemed as tired as her rider. Tomar patted her neck and whispered, "Soon, girl, soon we will be home." He thought about his small hut at the edge of the forest. The hut was simple, but it was warm, and it smelled of fresh bread and herbs. It was the only place he truly felt safe after long days on the road. The quiet of the road was broken by distant sounds. At first, Tomar thought it was the wind, but then he heard a faint clatter, hooves pounding on the dirt road. He lifted his head and squinted at the horizon. A group of men was riding fast toward him. Their faces were hidden under wide hats, and their horses moved like shadows across the land. Something about the way they approached made Tomar uneasy. He slowed his horse and tried to think. The men stopped a few meters away. They spread across the road, cutting off any chance for Tomar to move forward or turn back. Their leader, a tall man with a long coat, stepped forward. He did not smile. He looked serious and dangerous. "Hand over your money," he said, his voice rough like gravel. Tomar shook his head. "I don't have much. Please, just leave me be." But the men did not listen. One of them pulled a gun from his belt and aimed it quickly. The sound of the shot echoed across the open land. Tomar felt a sharp pain in his leg and he fell from his horse. The mare whinnied and bolted away, leaving him alone. The pain was fierce, and his leg would not move. He tried to crawl, but it was useless. He felt the dirt under his fingers and grit in his mouth as he gasped for air. The men took his small bag with the little money he had earned. They laughed and rode away, leaving only dust in their trail. Tomar tried to call for help, but his voice was weak. He leaned against a dry tree, clutching his injured leg. His heart beat fast, and the blood from the wound ran warm over his skin. He knew he could not move on his own. The sun began to sink lower, casting long shadows over the ground. Darkness was coming, and with it, fear. Tomar thought about the people who lived far away in the small town. Maybe someone could help him, he thought. But the road was empty. No travelers, no riders, no sound except the wind. He tried to stay calm, breathing slowly, but every movement sent sharp pain through his body. The night was coming fast, and he realized he could not stay in the open for long. Hours passed slowly. The sky turned from gold to dark blue. Stars appeared one by one, and the wind turned colder. Tomar's thoughts drifted. He remembered his father teaching him to ride horses, how to catch water from the stream, and how to survive alone in the wild. Those lessons now seemed very far away. He wished he had someone with him, anyone to help. Then, far down the road, he heard something different. The sound was soft but steady. Hooves again, but slower than before. Tomar tried to lift his head and focus. The sound grew closer, and soon he could see the shape of an animal moving toward him. It was not a strong horse. Its steps were careful, almost gentle. It was an old donkey, thin and worn with age. Its ears twitched as it approached. The donkey stopped a few steps away and looked at Tomar with calm eyes. The animal seemed to understand that something was wrong. Tomar reached out a trembling hand. The donkey lowered its head and let him touch it. Its fur was rough but warm, and its eyes were kind. For a moment, Tomar felt hope he had not felt all day. "Can you help me?" he whispered, though he knew the donkey could not answer with words. The animal stayed close, shifting its weight slightly, as if inviting him to climb onto its back. Tomar tried to move, but his leg would not respond. Pain shot through him, making him cry out softly. The donkey did not leave. It nuzzled his shoulder gently, giving him comfort in the cold and dark. Tomar realized that this old donkey might be his only chance to survive the night. He tried to speak again. "I need to get home. Can you carry me?" The donkey did not respond in words, but it lowered itself slightly, letting Tomar lean on it. Carefully, with the donkey supporting him, he began to move. The pain was sharp with every step, but the donkey stayed close, moving slowly to make sure he did not fall. The night grew colder. The stars shone brightly above, and a faint moonlight lit the road. Tomar held on tight, grateful for the donkey's strength and patience. Each step was difficult, but he felt less afraid with the animal near him. The wind whispered through the trees, and the quiet world seemed to hold its breath as they moved together. Memories filled Tomar's mind. He remembered other times he had been alone and afraid, times when help had come in unexpected forms. He thought about his father, who always said, "Nature gives help to those who do not give up." Now, he realized the meaning of these words. The donkey had come when he needed help most darts past. The road seemed endless, but the donkey never gave up. Tomar's body ached, his leg throbbed, but he felt a strange comfort. He talked to the donkey softly, sharing his thoughts and fears. It listened quietly, never moving away. Finally, in the distance, he saw the faint lights of his hut. His heart lifted with hope. The donkey continued carefully, making sure Tomar did not fall. When they reached the small home, Tomar leaned against the wooden fence, exhausted but alive. He thanked the donkey quietly. The animal had done what no person had done that night. It had helped him survive. Tomar looked at the donkey with admiration. "I do not know who you are or why you came, but you saved my life," he said softly. The donkey nuzzled him once more, then turned toward the stable near the hut. It seemed ready to rest, proud of the help it had given. Tomar knew that he would never forget this night. The pain in his leg would heal, but the lesson from the old donkey would stay with him forever. Even in the wild, even in the darkest hours, kindness and courage could appear in the most unexpected form. The wind blew softly through the grass. The stars watched silently, and the old donkey rested near the small hut. Tomar felt a quiet peace for the first time since the attack. He knew the night had tested him, but it had also given him hope and a reminder that help could come in any shape, even from an old donkey walking slowly on a dusty road. Tomar woke the next morning to the soft rays of sunlight spilling through the small window of his hut. His leg was sore, but he could move slightly without sharp pain. He looked around, and the old donkey was still there, standing quietly near the door. Its eyes seemed calm, almost wise, as if it had something important to show. Tomar smiled weakly. "Good morning, friend. You stayed with me all night." The donkey flicked its ears and stepped closer to him after a few moments. Tomar realized that he could not stay in the hut all day. His leg was weak, but he needed supplies from the small town nearby. He had to find food and medicine for the wound. He tried to rise, but the pain made him lean back. The donkey, sensing his struggle, lowered its head and allowed him to place his weight against it. Carefully, Tomar stood, supported by the donkey. He felt a sense of gratitude stronger than he had ever felt for any animal before. Tomar decided to rest for a short while before starting the journey. He brewed tea from dried herbs, slowly sipping as he looked at the donkey. The animal stayed still, observing him, calm and patient. Tomar felt a strange thought in his mind. "How did you find me last night?" he asked quietly. The donkey blinked slowly. It did not answer in words, but it seemed to understand. Tomar wondered if this donkey had wandered the roads for years, learning every path, every secret corner of the land. After breakfast, Tomar prepared to leave. He wrapped his leg carefully, trying to protect it from the dust and rocks. The donkey waited patiently, lowering its back so Tomar could climb onto it. He mounted slowly, feeling the donkey's strength beneath him. They stepped out of the small yard together, moving toward the main road. The sun was rising higher, and the day promised to be hot. The road to the town was long, and the journey was not easy. Tomar's leg hurt with every step, and the donkey moved slowly to keep him safe. Along the way, they passed dry fields and scattered trees. Birds flew across the sky, and the wind carried a faint scent of water from a stream far away. The donkey seemed to know the way, taking small paths and avoiding the rocks and uneven ground. Tomar marveled at the animal's careful movements. As the afternoon approached, the donkey suddenly stopped near a small hill. It looked around and then turned toward a narrow path leading into a hidden grove. Tomar was surprised. "Are we going this way?" he asked, pointing to the main road. The donkey shook its head slightly and began moving up the hidden path. Tomar felt curiosity mixed with caution. He trusted the donkey, but he did not understand why it had chosen this strange path. The path led them through a dense grove of trees. Sunlight filtered through the leaves, creating patterns on the ground. The donkey moved carefully, avoiding loose stones and fallen branches. Tomar held on, amazed at the animal's knowledge. Finally, they reached a small clearing. In the middle of the clearing was an old wooden cart, half hidden by bushes. The donkey stopped and nudged the cart gently with its nose. Tomar stepped down to examine the cart. It was old, but it looked usable. Nearby, there were bundles of supplies carefully stored. There was water, food, bandages, and even a small blanket. Tomar's eyes widened. He could not believe his luck. "Where did all this come from?" he asked, looking at the donkey. The animal seemed proud but calm. Tomar realized that the donkey had brought him to a hidden place of help, a secret that could save his life. He gathered the supplies and rested for a short while in the shade. The donkey stayed close, nibbling gently at the grass. Tomar thought about how strange life could be. A creature that seemed ordinary at first had become his protector and guide. He wondered if the donkey had helped other travelers in the past, guiding them through danger or giving them hope when they were lost. After he rested, Tomar decided to continue to the town. He packed what he could carry and mounted the donkey carefully. The path back to the main road was safer now, and the donkey moved steadily. Along the way, Tomar saw signs of recent travelers. Footprints, broken branches, and dust marks told him that the road had not been empty. He felt a small sense of relief knowing that people were not far as they approached the town. Tomar's mind turned to the men who had attacked him. He remembered their rough voices, their guns, and the fear he had felt. He realized that he could not let them take his life or possessions again. But for now, he needed safety and help for his leg. The town was small, with simple wooden houses and a few shops. The streets were dusty, but the people were busy with their daily tasks. Children played near the well, laughing and running. Farmers carried baskets of vegetables, and merchants arranged goods for sale. Tomar guided the donkey carefully through the town. People stopped to watch, amazed at the sight of an old donkey carrying a man carefully. Some smiled and waved. Tomar felt a sense of pride. He knew that the donkey had done something extraordinary. Together, they were more than just a man and an animal. They were a team, facing the world with courage and care. At the small shop near the center of town, Tomar bought bandages, salve, and food. The shopkeeper looked at the donkey with surprise. "You have a strong friend," he said, smiling. Tomar nodded. "Yes, more than I could ever ask for." He gave the donkey a gentle pat. The animal blinked slowly, as if it understood the praise. On the way back to the hut, the sun began to set again. The sky turned golden red, reminding Tomar of the day before. He thought about the journey, the pain, and the hope he had felt. He realized that the donkey had taught him an important lesson. Help can come from the most unexpected places. Courage does not always come from a strong person or a soldier. Sometimes it comes from a quiet, patient creature who knows the land and cares enough to guide someone in need. That night, after resting and applying the bandages, Tomar sat near the fire outside his hut. The donkey stood nearby, watching the flames. The stars filled the sky, and a gentle wind moved through the grass. Tomar thought about the days ahead. He would have to recover, be careful on the road, and find a way to prevent danger from coming again. But he also knew that he was not alone. The donkey had chosen him, and in that choice was a bond stronger than fear. Suddenly, the donkey moved toward the back of the hut and returned carrying something small in its mouth. Tomar looked and saw a small pouch of coins. He smiled in surprise. "Did you take this from somewhere?" he asked softly. The donkey did not answer, but it placed the pouch near him and nuzzled his shoulder. Tomar realized that the donkey had brought him more than safety. It had brought him tools, supplies, and perhaps even a way to face future challenges. Tomar went to bed that night feeling more hope than he had in many years. He knew the road was dangerous, that men with guns and greed were still out there, but he also knew that courage and help could appear in quiet forms, in creatures who did not speak but acted with understanding. He fell asleep with a sense of peace, trusting the old donkey to stay near, guiding him through life when it was most uncertain. The next morning, Tomar woke to a cool breeze moving through the small hut. His leg was slowly improving, but it still hurt when he moved too quickly. He looked at the old donkey standing outside, watching the sky with calm eyes. The sun was rising, painting the clouds in shades of pink and orange. Tomar knew that he could not stay in the hut forever. The men who had attacked him might still be nearby. He needed a safer place, a place where he could rest fully and regain strength. Tomar prepared for the journey, carefully wrapping his leg and checking the supplies he had received from the town. The donkey waited patiently, lowering its back so Tomar could climb on. He mounted slowly, feeling grateful for the animal's support. They left the small town behind, walking along the dusty road. The sun rose higher, making the land bright and warm. Birds sang in the trees, and the wind carried the scent of grass and flowers. After a few hours, the donkey stopped suddenly near the edge of a forest. It looked toward the trees, ears twitching, as if listening to something invisible. Tomar followed its gaze and saw a narrow path hidden by bushes. "Is this where we go?" he asked softly. The donkey did not answer, but it stepped onto the path with confidence. Tomar realized that the donkey had a sense of direction beyond his own understanding. He trusted it completely. The path led them deeper into the forest. Trees grew thick, and sunlight barely reached the ground. Small streams ran along the path, their water clear and cool. Tomar drank some water and splashed a little on his face. The donkey paused to nibble on the grass, its calm presence comforting him. He wondered how many travelers had never noticed this hidden path, and how many dangers it could protect them from. As they walked, Tomar noticed the sounds of the forest. Birds called from above, and small animals rustled in the underbrush. Occasionally, he saw footprints of other animals, but no sign of people. The forest felt alive, but safe. The donkey moved carefully, stepping over roots and stones. Tomar felt his confidence grow with every step. He began to understand that the donkey knew the forest better than any map could show. After several hours, the path opened into a hidden valley. The valley was surrounded by tall hills, and a small river ran through it. The water sparkled in the sunlight, and flowers grew along the banks. Tomar gasped in surprise. He had never seen such a place. It was quiet, peaceful, and completely hidden from the main road. The donkey walked slowly into the valley, stopping near a small clearing where soft grass grew. Tomar dismounted and walked beside the donkey. He knelt on the grass, feeling the cool earth under his hands. "This place, it's perfect," he said softly. The donkey stood beside him, watching. Tomar realized that the valley could be a safe place for him to recover completely. He could rest, hunt for food, and plan his next steps without fear. The men who had attacked him would never find him here. He spent the afternoon exploring the valley with the donkey. He found a small cave near the riverbank which could serve as a shelter if the weather turned bad. He gathered wood for a fire and used the supplies he had brought to set up a small living area. The donkey stayed close, helping in its own quiet way, stepping carefully to avoid knocking things over. Tomar laughed softly. He could not believe how lucky he was to have this animal with him. That evening, Tomar cooked a simple meal over the fire. The smell of roasted food filled the valley, and he felt his strength returning. The donkey stood nearby, watching patiently, occasionally stepping forward to sniff the food. Tomar shared a small portion, and the donkey ate carefully. Tomar realized that this creature had not only saved his life but now shared his daily routine. They were companions in every sense. After the meal, Tomar sat near the river thinking about the events that had led him here. He remembered the attack on the road, the pain of the wound, and the fear he had felt alone. Now, he felt a deep sense of gratitude. The donkey had not only saved him but guided him to a place of safety. Tomar whispered softly to the animal, "You are more than a friend. You are my guide, my protector, and my teacher." The donkey blinked slowly, as if acknowledging his words. Days passed in the hidden valley. Tomar's leg healed steadily, and his strength returned. He explored the area, fishing in the river and gathering fruits and herbs from the forest. The donkey remained by his side at all times, carrying supplies and helping him move when the ground was uneven. Tomar began to notice small things about the donkey. Its ears moved to catch distant sounds, its eyes could see far across the valley, and its steps were careful to avoid danger. He realized that the donkey had a wisdom that went beyond any human understanding. One morning, while exploring a small hill overlooking the valley, Tomar noticed smoke rising from the main road in the distance. His heart sank. He knew that the men who had attacked him might still be searching. He returned quickly to the valley and told the donkey to stay close. Together, they prepared a plan to hide and protect themselves. Tomar realized that although the valley was safe, danger could come at any time. The next few days were tense. Tomar stayed alert, watching the paths leading into the valley. The donkey seemed to understand the situation as well. It moved quietly, checking the surrounding area and signaling to Tomar with small movements when something seemed unusual. Tomar felt a sense of relief knowing he was not alone. The donkey's presence gave him courage and confidence. One evening, as the sun dipped below the hills, Tomar noticed a small figure moving along the distant road. He squinted and realized it was one of the men who had attacked him. The man seemed to be looking around, as if searching for something. Tomar's heart raced, but he stayed calm. He knew the donkey would help him if needed. The animal stepped closer, lowering its head and brushing gently against Tomar's leg. He understood the message. Together they could face whatever came their way. Tomar and the donkey spent the night in the cave, hidden from view. The stars shone brightly, and the valley was calm. Tomar thought about how the donkey had changed his life. He had come to the valley weak and in pain, but with the donkey's help, he had found safety, strength, and hope. He whispered softly, "We are a team now, and nothing will break us." The donkey blinked slowly and rested its head near him, a silent promise of loyalty and courage. The next morning, Tomar decided to explore further. He wanted to understand the valley completely, to know where danger could come from and where he could find food and water. The donkey walked beside him, guiding him through the forest and over the hills. Together they discovered hidden streams, fruit trees, and safe resting spots. Tomar realized that the donkey had not only saved his life but had led him to a place where he could thrive. As the days passed, Tomar's confidence grew. He practiced moving on his injured leg, slowly learning to walk without help. The donkey stayed close, supporting him when needed and waiting patiently when he struggled. Tomar understood that strength was not just physical, it was trust, patience, and care. And the donkey had all of these qualities in abundance. One afternoon, Tomar sat on a hill overlooking the valley, watching the sun set. The donkey stood quietly beside him, eyes reflecting the orange and gold of the sky. Tomar thought about the future. He would need to travel again, to face the world outside the valley, but he knew he would never be afraid as long as the donkey was with him. Together they had survived danger, found safety, and learned to trust one another completely. Tomar smiled, feeling a sense of peace he had never known. He whispered, "This valley, this life, and you, my friend, have changed everything." The donkey blinked slowly and nudged him gently, as if to say that their journey was only beginning. Tomar realized that their story was far from over. There were still challenges ahead, but he knew one thing with certainty: they would face them together. The morning light fell softly over the hidden valley, filling it with warmth and calm. Tomar's leg had grown stronger, but he knew he still had to be careful. The valley had become a place of safety and hope, but he could not stay hidden forever. He needed to plan for the future, to travel again without fear. The donkey stood nearby, calm and patient as always. Watching the trees sway in the gentle breeze, Tomar decided to explore the paths leading away from the valley. He wanted to understand the roads, to know where dangers could come from, and to find a safe way to the nearby towns. The donkey followed him quietly, moving carefully over rocks and roots. Every step reminded Tomar of how lucky he was to have this animal as a guide and companion. He whispered softly, "We need to be ready for anything." The donkey blinked slowly, as if agreeing. The path they followed led to a small ridge overlooking the main road. Tomar squinted against the sun and saw movement in the distance. Dust rose in the air and he recognized the shapes of horses. His heart beat faster. The men who had attacked him before were returning. He could see their hats and coats even from this distance. They were searching, moving slowly as if looking for someone or something. Tomar stepped back from the edge of the ridge and lowered himself to the ground. The donkey moved closer, its ears flicking toward the sound of hooves. Tomar whispered, "We must stay hidden. They cannot find us here." The donkey stayed perfectly still, its calm presence giving Tomar courage. He realized that they needed a plan to avoid the men and stay safe. He led the donkey down a narrow path that curved through the trees. The men on the road rode past the valley without noticing the hidden path. Tomar felt relief, but he knew this was only temporary. They could return at any moment. He needed a better plan to protect themselves. The valley was safe for now, but he could not rely on hiding forever. Over the next few days, Tomar explored more of the valley and the surrounding hills. He found high cliffs where they could watch the roads from a distance, small caves for emergency shelter, and hidden streams with clean water. The donkey guided him carefully through every path, never missing a step. Tomar began to see the valley as more than a place of safety. It was a fortress, a place where they could be ready for anything. One afternoon, as Tomar rested near the river, he noticed a faint sound of voices carried by the wind. He stood and listened carefully. The voices were low and cautious, speaking in a tone of searching. He realized that the men were close, perhaps scouting the area around the valley. Tomar's heart raced, but he remained calm. The donkey stepped forward, moving with purpose toward the hidden trees. Tomar understood the message. They needed to prepare for the possibility of confrontation. He spent the evening setting small traps around the valley's entrances. Nothing harmful, only simple obstacles to slow down anyone trying to follow them. He knew that the donkey's presence would be their greatest advantage. The animal had a way of sensing danger and guiding them away from threats. As the sun set, Tomar felt a sense of determination. He was no longer just surviving. He was ready to defend the valley and protect the life he had rebuilt. Night fell, and the valley was calm under the moonlight. Tomar and the donkey stayed near the cave, watching the shadows around the trees. He thought about the journey they had shared so far. The donkey had saved him from death, guided him to safety, and now was helping him prepare for future dangers. He whispered, "We are stronger than we were yesterday. We will face whatever comes with courage." The donkey blinked slowly, resting its head near him, a silent promise of loyalty. The next morning, Tomar noticed smoke rising from the distant road. It was far enough that it did not reach the valley, but he knew that the men were still active. He realized that they might try another attack, or worse, try to find the valley directly. He needed to move carefully and make sure they had an escape plan if danger came too close. The donkey followed his movements, calm and patient. As if understanding every thought in his mind, Tomar decided to explore a new path leading to a smaller hidden valley nearby. He thought that if the men discovered this valley, they could retreat quickly to another safe place. The path was narrow and covered with thick bushes. The donkey moved first, carefully testing the ground. Tomar followed, relying on the animal's instincts to guide him. They walked for hours, crossing streams, stepping over rocks, and climbing small hills. The donkey never rushed, always moving with steady determination. Finally, they reached a small hidden valley. It was surrounded by tall hills, with a river running through it and a few trees providing shade. Tomar felt a wave of relief. This place could be a second home if the first valley was discovered. He set up a small resting spot with supplies and prepared for the night. The donkey stood quietly nearby, watching the trees as if keeping guard. Tomar realized that their bond had grown stronger than ever. He was no longer alone. He had a companion who understood danger, survival, and trust in a way no human could. As night fell, Tomar thought about the future. He would need to be cautious, but he also knew that he had learned to survive and plan. The donkey had taught him patience, awareness, and courage. They had faced fear together and had found strength in each other. Tomar whispered softly, "No matter what comes, we will face it together." The donkey stepped closer and nudged him gently, as if promising that they would. The following days were filled with careful preparation. Tomar explored both valleys, learned all the hidden paths, and created safe zones. He practiced moving with his injured leg and gained confidence in his ability to travel if needed. The donkey remained by his side at all times, guiding him, supporting him, and alerting him to any signs of danger. Together, they became a team capable of facing the unknown with calm courage. One evening, as the sun set behind the hills, Tomar noticed figures moving on the distant road. He recognized them immediately. It was the men who had attacked him, returning again. Dust rose in the air as they rode slowly, searching for any sign of his presence. Tomar's heart raced, but he stayed calm. He knew that the valleys, the hidden paths, and the donkey's guidance gave them a chance to avoid danger. Tomar and the donkey stayed in the smaller hidden valley, watching the men from a distance. He whispered softly, "We will not be caught. Stay calm, and trust me." The donkey stepped forward, ears flicking, ready to move at the slightest sign of danger. The men moved slowly, unaware of the hidden valleys, and eventually rode past, leaving only dust and distant voices. Tomar felt relief, knowing that their preparation had worked. That night, under the stars, Tomar reflected on the lessons he had learned. Courage was not just about strength, it was about trust, patience, and awareness. The donkey had shown him that even in the most difficult situations, guidance could come in unexpected forms. He whispered softly, "You saved me once, guided me twice, and now you have taught me how to face the world." The donkey rested its head near him, silent but full of understanding. The following morning, Tomar and the donkey explored the surrounding hills once more. He wanted to make sure there were no blind spots or hidden dangers. The valleys were safe, the paths were clear, and the rivers provided fresh water. He began to plan for the next journey, knowing that the world beyond the hills would test them again. But he also knew that they were ready. Together they had survived danger, found safety, and learned to trust each other completely. Tomar smiled as he watched the donkey move gracefully across the valley. He whispered softly, "We are ready. Whatever comes next, we will face it together." The donkey blinked slowly, stepping closer, as if promising that they would never be alone again. The journey beyond the valley ***. The sun rose slowly over the hidden valleys, painting the hills with golden warmth. Tomar had spent many days resting, planning and learning the land. His leg had healed enough for him to walk steadily, though he still relied on the donkey for support during long journeys. He looked at the calm animal standing beside him and felt a surge of gratitude. Together, they had survived danger, found safety, and discovered a bond deeper than friendship. Tomar knew it was time to leave the valley. The men who had attacked him could return, and he needed to reach the next town to live safely. He packed their supplies carefully, food, water, and a few tools to help him travel. The donkey seemed to understand that the journey ahead would be long. It stood patiently, waiting as Tomar mounted and adjusted his pack. They started slowly down the narrow path, stepping carefully over roots and rocks. The first few hours of travel were quiet. The valley faded behind them, and the open land stretched ahead. Tomar kept his eyes on the horizon, watching for any signs of danger. The donkey walked steadily, its hooves moving confidently on the uneven ground. Tomar felt a sense of hope growing with every step. They were leaving fear behind, moving toward freedom and safety. As they traveled, Tomar noticed signs of life in the open fields. Birds flew across the sky, and small animals darted through the grass. Streams glistened in the sunlight, and the wind carried the smell of earth and flowers. It was a world full of beauty, but also full of challenges. Tomar remembered the lessons he had learned from the valley and the donkey. Patience, awareness, and courage would guide them safely through whatever lay ahead. By mid-afternoon, the road became rough and rocky. Tomar carefully guided the donkey over the uneven path, holding tightly to the reins. They climbed a small hill and paused to rest. From the top, they could see the next town in the distance. Smoke rose gently from the chimneys, and people moved about in the streets. Tomar's heart lifted. The town promised safety, a place to rebuild life fully. The donkey nuzzled his shoulder, a silent gesture of encouragement. As they approached the town, Tomar noticed movement along the main road. He froze and squinted. In the distance, dust clouds appeared, and he recognized the shapes of riders. His heart skipped a beat. Could the men who attacked him have followed? He stayed calm, breathing slowly. The donkey stepped slightly forward, ears alert. Tomar realized that the animal had already sensed the danger and was ready to guide him through it. The riders came closer, but Tomar saw that they were not the same men. They were travelers, merchants moving with carts and animals. The danger had passed, and the road was clear. Tomar felt relief, but he remained cautious. He guided the donkey carefully through the outskirts of the town, avoiding crowded streets. The people stared at them with curiosity and surprise. A man selling bread smiled and nodded, recognizing the calm determination in Tomar's eyes. Tomar found a quiet inn at the edge of the town. He helped the donkey inside a stable and gave it water and fresh hay. The donkey drank slowly, as if it understood that they were safe at last. Tomar sat on a bench nearby, looking at the animal and smiling. "We made it," he said softly. "We survived, and now we can rest." The donkey blinked slowly, its calm eyes reflecting understanding and pride. Over the next days, Tomar settled in the town. He found a small house he could rent and prepared a life for himself. The donkey stayed by his side at all times, helping him with tasks and guiding him through the streets. People in the town grew curious about the animal. Children laughed and played around it, while merchants brought food and treats for the donkey. Tomar explained its story quietly, and everyone admired its intelligence and loyalty. One morning, Tomar received news from the town guards. They had captured a group of men who had been causing trouble along the roads. Among them were the ones who had attacked him months ago. Tomar felt a mix of relief and satisfaction. The danger that had haunted him was gone, and he could finally live without fear. He went to the guards to thank them and share his story. They listened with amazement, especially when he spoke of the donkey that had guided and protected him. Days turned into weeks, and life in the town became routine but peaceful. Tomar repaired his home, planted a small garden, and helped neighbors with work in the fields. The donkey remained by his side, calm, patient, and always watchful. People often stopped to admire the animal, but Tomar knew that it was more than a creature of beauty. It was a companion who had saved his life and taught him lessons about trust, courage, and awareness. One evening, as the sun set over the rooftops, Tomar and the donkey walked to a small hill overlooking the town. The sky was painted in colors of orange and pink, reflecting on the calm river that ran through the town. Tomar thought about the journey they had shared, the attack on the road, the hidden valleys, and the nights spent under the stars. He whispered softly, "You saved me when I could not move, guided me when I was lost, and gave me hope when I felt alone." The donkey stepped closer and rested its head against him. Silent but full of understanding, Tomar knew that life would have challenges ahead. Roads could be dangerous and the world could be unpredictable. But he also knew that courage did not always come from strength alone. It came from trust, patience, and the quiet determination to keep moving forward. The donkey had shown him all of these qualities. It had guided him through danger, protected him from harm, and led him to safety in ways no human could have done. As night fell, the town grew quiet. The stars reflected in the river, and the wind carried a gentle coolness through the streets. Tomar and the donkey walked slowly back to their home. Inside, he prepared a simple meal, and the donkey ate nearby, calm and content. Tomar looked at the animal with deep gratitude. He realized that he would never forget this journey. The donkey had not only saved his life but had changed it forever in the weeks that followed. Tomar continued to explore the areas around the town, always with the donkey by his side. They traveled carefully along the roads, avoiding danger and helping those in need when possible. Tomar became known in the town as a man of courage and wisdom, always accompanied by his loyal companion. People admired him for his bravery, but he knew that true courage had come from trust and guidance, not just strength. One morning, Tomar woke to see the donkey standing by the window, looking out at the rising sun. He smiled, feeling a deep sense of peace. He whispered softly, "We have faced fear, found safety, and learned to live fully. Thank you for being my guide, my protector, and my friend." The donkey blinked slowly and stepped closer, resting its head against him. Tomar realized that this bond was unbreakable, a connection built on trust, loyalty, and shared experience. Tomar knew that the journey was not over. Life would continue to bring challenges, but he also knew that he would never face them alone. The donkey had taught him that courage could be quiet, guidance could be gentle, and hope could come in unexpected forms. Together, they had survived the road, hidden valleys, and dangerous men. Now they were ready for whatever the world might bring. As the sun rose higher, Tomar and the donkey stepped outside, ready to face the day. The town was peaceful, the road ahead clear, and the world full of possibilities. Tomar felt a sense of freedom he had never known before. He had learned that trust, courage, and loyalty were stronger than fear. And as long as the donkey was by his side, he knew he could face anything. Tomar whispered softly, "We have walked together through fear, pain, and uncertainty. Now, we walk together into a future full of hope." The donkey blinked slowly, stepping forward, ready to move into the world with him. Together, they walked down the road, leaving the valleys behind but carrying the lessons of survival, trust, and courage in their hearts. The town grew smaller behind them as they moved forward, but Tomar felt no fear. He had the donkey, his guide and companion, by his side. The journey had been long, the challenges had been many, but they had survived. And now, with each step on the open road, they were free to face whatever the future held. The sun shone brightly, the wind carried the scent of the fields, and the road stretched ahead, full of opportunity. Tomar held the reins loosely, feeling the donkey's strength beneath him. They moved forward together, not as a man and an animal, but as friends, companions, and survivors. The road ahead was unknown, but Tomar knew one thing for certain. They would face it together, and nothing could break their bond. The donkey walked steadily, guiding him forward, just as it had done from the first moment it found him on the dusty road. Tomar smiled, feeling a quiet joy. They had faced the darkest moments, survived, and now the world was open to them. Together, they were ready for everything. The journey was not just about survival anymore. It was about life, hope, and the unbreakable bond between a man and the donkey who had saved him.